talk show host, here to talk about Social Cipher with Vanessa Castañeda Gill. And what we're talking about today is just how she created it and what the heck it is. And we did play the game before, way back in April, so we're gonna need a refresher on everything about the game, obviously. But just super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Please, everybody, do let me know if there's anything wrong with the audio. I don't think so. I'm just, audio's always a mess with streams. I'm trying my best. I promise I'm trying my best. But welcome, Vanessa. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and just to, talk about Ava and games, mental health, and all these things.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. So that works out. Perfect. So, if you can give us just a little bit of an overview about yourself, like, what's your thing? What, I mean, other than social cipher, obviously,
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, so my thing is Social Cipher. Basically, we're a game-based social emotional learning platform for neurodivergent youth and the professionals who work with them. So we basically help folks build social emotional competence and confidence through space pirate video games. And
Space
that's what we
pirates.
do. It's a great time. And as you can see, like, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, love space pirates in general. I'm a big old nerd myself. And the reason I started this was because of my own, diagnosis with ADHD and autism when I was young, and my own experiences. So yeah.
Understood. All right, we are gonna dive deeper into that. But in general, I guess, like, what led you to make this game is awesome. We got to play it. It was really cool. And I know it's meant for 15-year-olds, but this 30-year-old was on the struggle, but like totally struggling with it. But just because, like, I'm not very good at games, and I had it was actually the perfect level for me, and I learned a bunch because of the, just emotional education that is part of the game. And again, like, I'm 30, so you'd think by now I'd have these skills, but not all the time. But yeah, so my question to you is, like, how did you become interested just in psychology in general? And I know you self-disclosed that you have autism, but anything else in that, like, why psychology, why mental health, why get into all of this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, on your point of not being super great at the game, that was kind of my secret too. I have a series of videos on earlier versions of our game when it was more difficult, where, like, I played through it just for entertainment purposes, and I was just like yelling at the screen. But yeah, anyway, but yes. So when it came to just being interested in psychology, mental health, stuff like that, so I, have, especially with my own diagnoses, I have always been so interested in just how the human brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it helped me understand how my brain worked. And so that's how I got into neuroscience. So I went to college, and I started from, like, very lucky to, from my freshman year, start doing neuroscience research. And that's what really led me into this whole realm of stuff, on understanding psychology from, a psychology perspective, and then neuroscience from, like, the super deep molecular levels. So I just, like, loved learning about the brain from inside and out. And yeah, we can go deeper into this later, but at the very beginning, because we've been developing for like 3 years, but in reality, I started stuff with this, like brainstorming kind of stuff with this, excuse the pun, but not actually, ever since, like, my junior year of college.
Whoa.
And there were a lot of iterations. There were a lot of things, like, before this was even thought of as a game, that we can go through. But yeah, that's kind of where it's all stemmed.
So what you're saying is you might be a nerd. And
maybe
we love nerds here. I don't know. Yeah, don't look. We're really cool, okay? No, we use nerd in the nicest possible, kindest way. Absolutely. So okay, so you're in your senior year of college, and you said senior, right? Okay.
Yeah, it
You
was like
just
summer
said
my
it.
junior year, senior year. I didn't know what I was doing.
You're giving it to me. That's so, so sweet. But I'm like, you just said it, and my brain immediately went, I don't know, I don't have this information. So, but yeah, so you started creating this game, and like, what gave you the idea? Because it's again, it's really cool, and like I learned a bunch from playing as Ava, and seeing how she interacts with the world and how other people, like, I messed up a bunch as I was playing the game, but yeah, okay. So how did the idea come to you?
Yeah, so story is a little bit unglamorous. Really what happened was I was in my college dorm lounge. I was doing reading for one of my favorite classes. It was like literature and cognitive science and movies, and it was how all of these things
Oh, that's so
intertwine with
cool.
like
Love that.
your
Okay.
brain on media, and I
Mhm.
loved it.
Mhm.
And so I was doing reading for it, and they were talking about autism. They were talking about like, oh, what if there was a form of media that really helped people understand this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, and I had a light bulb moment. And then I think my notebooks here somewhere from it, that like from the first moment I thought about it, I just like the way I think, I make like maps of just like different like concepts and things, and I just connect them together with like a mess of arrows. And so I started doing that, and I was like, I don't know where this is going, but we're gonna try. And at first, like, I didn't even think about it as a game. I was like, oh, this is gonna be some kind of like laboratory simulation that's fun, where you wear like an EEG, like big headset that has
Whoa,
electrodes on it.
whoa, whoa. Mhm.
Because I was in like laboratory mode at that
Right.
point. Like
Right.
I had been like previously what I was doing was I was modeling traumatic brain injury with fish, and like we were learning how to give them concussions in a like an ethical way. It was fine. They woke up 10
Whoa.
seconds later, but it was like all this crazy stuff. And so I was in super lab mode, but then I was like, okay, no, maybe this is not the way I want to go. I want the kids to actually have fun. I want to be able to do something
Mhm.
that's going to help people like myself when I was younger. And so then that transitioned into like, okay, what if it's a VR simulation? Let's do something like that. We started like getting mentors for that. And then I also realized like, okay, maybe VR also isn't the right thing for this. Because it still wasn't, number one, like our experience wasn't there yet. And number two, I just wanted people to be engaged in a different way that wasn't so on the nose. And we had just brought like our creative people, like our creative co-founders, Lucy and Charlie, who were like respectively our lead artist and our lead developer.
Mhm.
And they were like, no, we need to make this into an actual like fun game. And I was like, okay, I guess so. And at first we had like a fight over whether it should be a platformer, because I was like, this doesn't make sense. If it's a platformer, how does that teach things? And then over time, I learned about how, engaging platforming games can be, and how that paired with role-playing elements is actually super impactful and creates a really good and fun story. So yeah, that's like how it developed, and how we, started off with the idea. And I think another important thing to point out here that I'm trying to like talk about more is that in the first, year or so, probably like year and a half of developing, at this point we didn't even know it was going to be called Ava,
Mhm.
right? Like of developing this stuff, my objective, sad as it was more about like fixing my former self, and being ashamed of my former self,
Oh, and
and
this
trying to
became a
like,
big theme.
yeah, yeah. And so like this was a big thing, and like it was probably for the first, yeah, about year and a half, where I was like, okay, the objective is like making sure, it still came from this idea of like, I want to make sure other kids don't have to go through what I
Right.
did,
Right.
but it was a completely different
Approach.
way
Mhm.
than the way we do it now. And it
Mhm.
really was through building, this story of Ava, and seeing Ava's story progress, and seeing her become like a full-fledged, character. I was like, oh, I don't want this character to be trying to fix herself. I want her to be someone that's like embracing who she is and learning about herself. I'm like, why am I trying to fix my former self?
Aw.
And I think in that, like in that process, I started to gain, rather than like being annoyed or ashamed or like angry at like my teenage, kid self. I was like, this is not, I wasn't some like annoying kid that didn't understand things. I was doing the best with what I knew,
Of
and I
course.
didn't have the resources I needed. And like, I was a kid. And like, yeah, I just realized that all that and all of that, like anger, resentment, or like, attempts to fix turned completely into, no, I have to have like compassion for this person that I was. And also, compassion for the person that I am now. Cause that kind of stuff, even like kind of having this resentment or this tension with my past self was carrying into my
Of
like
course.
normal life today, where I was continuously like hard on myself. And I think that when that happened, when I made that pivot from like annoyance to compassion, that's really where, I started getting more excited about this and more about creating a positive impact in terms of embracing identities and really working on yourself in a way that was healthy, and that, what was compassionate about who you are now, who you were in the past, and who you're going to be in the future. So
Oh my
yeah.
God, I love that so much. I still have trouble with that. So, the thing that helped me was actually my diagnosis,
Mhm.
and that is what taught me to be compassionate, because I looked at it as like, maybe I have ADHD, maybe I have ADHD. I don't know. Like I feel for people who have ADHD, and then when I was diagnosed, it was very much like, oh, everything makes sense, and I have a reason. Like basically, there's a explanation for the compassion that I was missing, right?
Right.
Like from other people. And so that's really interesting, and that like kind of warms my heart to see that you got through that journey, and that your character was able to help you get through that. That's so beautiful. And so I mean, and so is that the goal? Like, do you feel, I kind of got the notion that like there was a concern that like that is how a lot of kids with autism are taught to like, let's assimilate. I'm using that term, very in quotations. Let's get them to help them, to help them fit into society. And so that's not what this game does at all. That there's never a feeling from other characters that are interacting with Ava that she is just like broken or something is wrong with her. It's just that she gets the world differently, and
Right.
let's help you make the world make sense to you. And that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly. It's really about helping a kid learn that, they can be the people that advocate for themselves. Not everyone is going to understand the idea that like the world isn't totally made for neurodivergent people. There needs to
Right.
be stuff that changes, and it shouldn't be all on the kid themselves to have to try to fit into this rigid society, right? Like there needs to be flexibility. Um, and I think that, the more that kids can have representation of those identities, advocate for themselves, and learn that it's okay to like talk about their needs and to ask for help and do this kind of stuff, the better it's going to get.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. So was that kind of a pain point like in your childhood? I mean, it sounds like it was just from what you're describing of like self actualization of, oh my gosh, I need to be more passionate about, compassionate towards myself. Is that like, you struggled a lot with that as a kid, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there were like a lot of things in terms of that, where like I think when I got my autism diagnosis, what was difficult for me was, number one, there was no representation of women on the spectrum.
Right, right.
And number two, I think the other difficult thing was that like I with the stereotypes that were around when,
Mm-hmm.
I was a teenager, a lot of it was like, okay, I got to be a cold calculating robot that feels no emotions.
Right.
Cool, all right, I'm going to just turn off my emotions because apparently I can't do that.
Right. Apparently you don't have them. Now that you're diagnosed, especially. Before you were diagnosed, you did, but now that you have the diagnosis, like that's it. That's everything
Yeah,
shuts off.
exactly. I was like, and I think in some ways, like I think with a lot of folks that having the diagnosis can help. But I think with me, I had already kind of had this difficult kind of relationship with my emotions, because for
Mm.
me, I was always this, type A straight A student that was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I don't need emotions. I'm not good at connecting with people, so I'm not going to try. I'm just going to get to where I need to be with my head in my books on my own. And like, I think the way that I clung to that diagnosis was like, oh, perfect. This is an excuse for me not to have to deal with these emotions and not have to process them and take control. Because there was a lot, there was a lot that I had gone through in terms of like bullying and in terms of, friends that I thought were my friends, but later realized after, learning more about social interaction that they were not actually my friends. And like, I was not at the stage to really be able to face that, because my self-esteem was at such a really honestly very low place. And so for me, like clinging to that diagnosis was like, okay, I'm supposed to be this way, this is fine. Was not fine, as a narrator would say. But yeah.
But it helped. I mean, you're, like you said, like you're helping kids not have to go through that. Like I learned I cannot emphasize enough, like I learned so much about myself playing that game. I had a few like tearful moments where I was like, oh, this is okay, this is fine, this is not and a lot of people I remember in chat were also talking about that moment where when Ava gets overstimulated, and like that's what makes her have to reset. And a lot of people in chat were like, oh, my life.
I almost cried the first time I saw that animation.
Really?
We had an animator, we have an animator. He's amazing. His name is Caleb. And he really took, because I mean, this is based on, hundreds of interviews and focus groups and things with the neurodivergent community, with neurodivergent folks themselves. And I remember that for this, like for the animation, and for, the idea of the shutdown sequence, what I did super early on was I would like put myself in crowds and try to like take notes of what was happening as I was feeling alone. Yeah, I know.
You are your own little guinea pig there. Oh my goodness.
I was like, well, like this was before we had our, our wonderful neurodiversity, our wonderful neurodivergent folks, like our like Lucas, who's our SEL consultant, and Jess, who's our community manager. Like this was before we had all these folks on board. And I was like, okay, well, the only person that's autistic is me. So I guess we're gonna try this. And I'm glad I did, because it also helped me. This was a big thing in helping me realize that like, these were not like feelings or concepts that I had identified before. And that was kind of another point of changing with this game. So one thing that we had done with like the narrative of this game early on was we were like, okay, there are going to be different worlds for different little like different emotions. So we had like a sad world and a mad world where there was a guy whose head turned into a tomato when he was angry. Like there were things like that. And we were trying to go super hard with like these social emotional frameworks and all this jargon. And I realized that like the way I learned about, my own emotional processing was not through like different terms and jargon and frameworks.
Right.
It was through stories, and it was through, those experiences where I was like relating to things and relating to people and learning how other people affected me and how I affected other people. And yeah, those were places where like our narratives started to kind of come together more as like more of a series of stories with social emotional concepts kind of woven in, rather than just like a rigid framework. And then like putting a game on top of it, as like some people might do. But yeah, that was a tangent, but yes, so many of the, animations and the concepts in here are just hit me so hard, and it makes me so happy and so proud and so touched when, other folks feel that too. It's all I want to be able to do.
Oh, I love that. So a lot of your journey parallels the journey. It sounds like, you're discovering yourself as as you're discovering the character and figuring her out and shaping her and everything. Did you so other than you talked about that, you consulted with other neurodivergent folks, but did you consult with like therapists and mental health professionals? And actually, if you don't mind me asking, like, did you yourself go to therapy and that help you too? Or yeah, just open question there.
Yeah, so we did, and we have, and we constantly are, working with mental health professionals. I think we have over 100 now that we've, interviewed or piloted or worked with. That they've been a fabulous community. And yes, in terms of therapy, yes, I've definitely gone at various times in my life. And it has always been super helpful. And I think, yeah, just for different things. Like I just graduated my last treatment, was very exciting and
Aw.
like a little bit scary because it's like, wait, but I need you. I need to keep going. But at the same time, you got to learn and be able to apply skills for yourself. And yeah, um, I've just been able to just recognize what I'm feeling and what I need so much better. I'm a very big therapy advocate.
Good. So are we here. So that works out perfectly. Um, so, okay. So we kind of answered this, but just in general, I'm sure there's a loud car. I don't know if you could hear it, but enough to distract me, obviously. But so is there a central kind of purpose and thing that you're trying to address with Social Cipher? Like, overall, what is the problem, I guess, that you're trying to solve? Because I feel like you kind of mentioned it, but I want to make sure we also pinpoint it.
Yeah. So I usually describe the problem in terms of sort of the two sides that we're addressing. So the first side is really the one that I've personally experienced. It's that neurodivergent youth are trying to navigate a world that is not built for them.
Mhm.
And because of that, neurodivergent youth are 4 times more likely to be depressed. They're much more likely to face loneliness, isolation, bullying. And this stuff is not good. Like these numbers are huge. And like I remember the first time I figured that out, I broke down because I was like, how I can't believe like people are surely doing things about this, but like I can't believe that these stats still exist and are just here like this. And so really after talking to neurodivergent youth, really exploring this more and really exploring my own difficulties with things more, I realized that a lot of this was due to just inadequate support,
Mhm.
difficulties in asking for help, and just not having the representation there.
Mhm.
And so, our big purpose for us is to really just uplift neurodivergent youth to help them and show them how amazing they really are, and empower them to advocate for themselves, to embrace their identities, and to tell their own stories and be change makers themselves, and realize that they are so incredibly capable of doing magnificent things. Yeah, and so like that is why I do this. I believe this is definitely why my team does this and why they're so incredibly passionate about it. And I think on the, one thing that's been a newer development for us is just how incredibly caring the mental health professionals and educators for these youth are too. They are out here trying and adapting everything that neurodivergent youth are interested in to make it stick, to make it be engaging, because there is just not enough out here in terms of resources, educational stuff for working with neurodivergent youth. Or, a lot of the resources, besides being scarce and besides taking a ton of time to adapt for these educators and counselors, a lot of these resources just aren't fun and aren't in touch
Right.
with neurodivergent folks, or aren't made by them, And so we're kind of solving these two problems, on the side of neurodivergent youth and also of the mental health professionals that work with them, and helping them really both work together to create the best lives possible.
I've been tearing up for the past like 2 minutes since you started talking, so I need a second. It's so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that that you're here and you're doing that, and you made that your life's work. That's amazing. That's amazing, and I can't wait for this to get into the hands of more people, and I hope that in some way, shape, or form that whatever I can do to help, I will absolutely be there. Um, so other than going into crowds, right, and specifically making yourself the guinea pig, how else do you relate to Ava? Like how am I it is Ava, right? Why is my brain
Yes.
okay. All right, anyway. But yeah, how else do you relate to her? It sounds like you relate to her quite deeply and she has a lot of aspects of you, but I guess now that she's created and she's more multidimensional, how do you relate to her as like a finished piece?
That's a great question. I would say that like the way that Ava is she's very much always willing to help. And she's just very open to things. She has her own passions and absolutely loves them. And she just has points where she's like, okay, I need reassurance. I don't know if this is gonna work out. Why do you even believe in me? And I've definitely, you know, kind of felt that stuff. And I also think like everything along with the music, the animations, everything, she's just like optimistic and ready to get out there. And as you're gonna see, you know, as our episodes go on and all, it is a lot about, you know, resilience and continuing to move forward. And you know, sometimes mistakes are hard and failures are going to happen, but just kind of like continuing to go is just another thing that I really relate to. And another, I guess another important point too is that Ava is actually based on a like real person. So this little known fact, I do have permission from her mom, but like,
Okay.
but yes, Ava is based on an actual young girl. She's, oh my gosh, she's 10 now. She
Growing
was,
up.
yeah, she was six or seven when we first, you know, play tested with her. She's our first play tester and like just brilliant, brilliant young girl. And I instantly saw myself in her. She was like geeking out about all these history facts. I used to read the Guinness Book of World Records and Ripley's Believe It or Not as a kid. I have all the collections still, and that was my special interest for like years and years. And like I just saw so much of myself in her, and I was like, okay, I need her.
Oh no. No, 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 no. Hello? Can you
A
still
big
hear me?
sort of
Oh, you
motivator.
broke.
Oh yeah.
You were frozen. Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Oh my god, I
Okay.
freaked out. Okay, you're unfrozen now, which is what matters.
Oh good.
Okay, but like you were frozen right after you said you saw so much of yourself in her. It says my internet connection's unstable. It's probably the heat.
Oh
Why? But it says
no.
it's fine now, so we're gonna try to live our lives. We're gonna continue. I'm so sorry.
Keep going forward.
Keep
Just
going
have
forward.
that
But
resilience. Yeah.
yeah, I love that whole like, yeah, we need reassurance. All of us need reassurance. All of us need to know that like, why do you bother with me? I feel like I mean, that's a question that so many just people with mental illness period ask, you know, other people to reassure them with. It's so yes, that's really absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for giving that detail. And also I'm really excited that she's based on a real girl. That makes me so happy. And like and that she enjoys that she enjoys playing the game. That's like perfect.
Yeah.
Um so now you've created a team, right? And you have an entire team that is working on this product, that's making it happen. How did you set out to create this team? What was super important to you? Why was it important to you? Like, what did you focus on? What did you hone in on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I mean, I've gone through a couple of like team building journeys. I mean, one thing that was really in the very beginning when I had this idea, like I didn't talk like I didn't tell people about my diagnosis for like 6 years. I would
Whoa.
super ashamed of it, didn't want anyone to know. And so I just told no one. And so then there was a problem that I faced when I came up with this venture, right? Because like the automatic question after I like talk about this idea that I have is like, oh, why'd you come up with that? Like, what does that matter to you? And I was just like, oh, I have to start telling people about this now. And so a lot of the time, you know, Social Cipher was really what helped me, what kind of like made me start talking about my diagnosis because I had
Wow.
to. Like there was, how could I not, you know?
Right.
It was my why. And so the first I told my closest friends about the idea and about, you know, my conditions. And of course, like I was like, oh gosh, they're going to treat me totally differently, all this stuff. Of course, they were like, wow, thanks for telling me. This sounds amazing. Let's do it. And that's really how it started. And we had no idea what we were doing. And we were like, I remember that I didn't want to give anyone a role because I didn't want to box them in. I also didn't know what roles actually were because I was, yeah, I had no idea. So I was just like, okay, every week, let's just come together with Post-its and brainstorm, because that's what I learned in class one time. And so I did that for like, we just did these like meetings for like a full year. And I just had like, it was like around 9 people that were just friends from
Whoa, that's still a
college
lot of
that were like,
people. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, people were super interested. And I think that, we at first thought that this was just going to be like a college passion project. Really, that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a college passion project that I would, we would all like get some credit for, and then, we write a paper about it and that'd be it. And then that didn't happen. And so, like, people had their own interests, they had their own things that they wanted to pursue after graduation. So that team cut down very fast. And it was, my 4 other co-founders and we were like, all right, graduation's coming. Do we want to keep doing this? And everyone is amazing. Like, we had some of my team members that wanted to go, that were like had aspirations of going to like med school and grad school and had job offers lined up. And they all straight up like took a year and a half, 2 years to work with me on Social Cipher.
Oh, that's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, I mean, they're amazing. And, they like held off the things. I mean, of course they were super passionate about what we were doing, but it just means so much to me to this day that they held off their dreams and the things they were doing, in order to pursue this, and stuff with, my dream too. So it's still really meaningful to me. And, they've ever since, like, they've gone and pursued their own stuff, which has been, Lucy is still on with me, which has been awesome. But, constantly like supporting them and just like seeing them grow, and we wouldn't be where we are without them. Yeah, and that was the beginning. And then we started slowly bringing on a couple other people as we started raising funding, winning pitch competitions and stuff. And yeah, those were all, and to this day still are all about like, are you interested in social impact? Do you have experience with the neurodivergent community? Do you have a personal connection? Are you neurodivergent? Like, all of these things. I think another thing with us is that we tend to kind of gravitate towards people who may not necessarily be neurodivergent, but have had points in their lives where they feel like they were left out, or they feel like they didn't belong somewhere, or they felt like a misfit of some sort. And I think those folks always tend to be just much more, in my opinion, just like tend to be very compassionate of our audience, tend to really be open to learning more, and really listening to those folks, and also just are really passionate about our mission. And I think we've formed this team of just incredibly passionate, brilliant people, who just put their heart and soul and brilliant brains into making an impact with us, and helping people. So it's pretty cool.
That's so beautiful. You've like made a home for misfit toys, but like you've created this project. It's just so meaningful, and the meaning and the point of it is so much bigger than a lot of things. Like that's so cool that you were able to. And so now you have funding, or are you looking for more funding, or like where are you in the process of things like that?
Yeah, so we are, so we're raising funding in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and we're raising, with like angel investors and with impact investment firms. It's really about raising with people who are values aligned with us,
Of
who
course.
don't just care about like a financial impact, but also care about, how many people we impact, and help. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I hope everything works out there, because I want to join your team. Are you kidding me? um, but so I guess we're kind of rounding out to our last question before we get to the QA. But oh, and fam, if you have any questions, exclamation question will give you instructions on how to enter them into the queue. I would love, Vanessa would love to answer. If you have like a few, please make sure they're game specific, not about your experience, anything you want to learn about the game. That would be a great question to ask Vanessa while we have her here. But so my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing relating to mental health, and I guess just neurodivergent youth in general in the world, what would that be?
Oh, that's such a hard one.
It is so
I
hard
mean,
because
I
it's like
think
everything.
truly everything. I mean, I think that um what I would love to just be able to give everyone this inherent sense that like they are loved, there are people that exist and want them to be in the world. And I think I would just want to give them that sort of inherent sense of like being here and being loved and being important. I think that that would be huge. And just like, I don't know, I wish there was like a little bird that would whisper that in your ear every time, like detecting a thought that was negative, and every time be like, no. I have friends like that and family like that, which is wonderful. But yeah, I think I think that would be great. And I think, of course, you know, being able to for everyone to be able to have at least one other, you know, person that they can go to, that, you know, they can wholeheartedly trust, and you know, feel valued by. Yeah.
My goodness, my heart. I can't handle you. I can't this
Okay.
this energy is so like beautiful. Like you
Oh,
just
thanks.
radiate so much hopeful, kind, thoughtful energy towards this and towards your goal, and it just shows it, like it comes out of your every pore, out of every word you say, and it's so touching. And I know I got like really carried away with metaphors there just a second ago, but like but really this is, it's so touching and so wonderful to see somebody putting their whole heart into this. And I 100% understand why people would want to follow you and follow this mission that you've created with what you're doing. That's amazing. That is so awesome. So it doesn't look like we have any questions about the game, which is totally okay. But how can people find the game or learn more? Or so we have the link to the Twitter and to the, you know, the website Social Cipher Game. So how can people find out and learn more if they're interested and want to kind of get in touch with you about it or anything like that?
Yeah. So if you have, like, currently we only are doing, you know, paid pilots of the game with mental health professionals and with educators. So if you have folks in your life who are those things, you should totally, you know, send this kind of stuff to them so that they can, you know, start using it with people like you. Um, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, you know, joining our wait list. If you are a mental health professional, you know, you can always go on our site, sign up to our wait list, and schedule a demo with us. I'd be happy to walk you through things. And yeah, you can always follow us on our social media. I am my Twitter handle personally is Von Solo 42.
That's adorable.
It's my username for everything, and I love it, and I don't want to let it go ever. But yeah, and I'll tweet about things on there, and keep you all updated and do that kind of stuff. Yeah, and our email for, you know, just asking any questions is ahoy@socialciphergame.com. I advocated for the ahoy part, even though
I love it.
hello would probably be better, but
No,
ahoy is
space
way more on
pirates
theme.
say ahoy. No,
Thank
it
you.
makes
Okay.
sense. It perfectly, it's logical. It checks out. Yeah. People are wondering, yeah, it would be really cool. Maybe we'll like play the game another time, fam. But otherwise we played it April. My wonderful mod has notified me the date that I played it last because I could not remember. But it was April 23rd. So if you want to check out my VODs, go through my VODs, definitely check it out because we played with one of the developers for the game, and he was so patient as I stumbled through. Yeah, so that we do have one question in. So I was wondering if we could throw that out to you. What are, as someone who's also on the autism spectrum, what challenges do you think you face today because of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the challenges I face are going to be I've accepted at this point that you know, neurodivergence and the conditions I have are things that are going to stay with me you know, for the rest of my life, and as I develop and grow, I'm going to, you know, they're never going to go away, and that's okay. It's more that like I'm learning more and more how to be their friend and how to, you know, work with them and use them as strengths and there are so many strengths involved that really help me. Like one strength, I know that you said challenges, which I will get to, but like one
No, I
strength
like that you're
I think
focusing on
that
the strengths. That's amazing. That's
yeah,
perfect. I love
I
that.
mean, I think that one strength I've had is that like, you know, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, like I've got to focus on so many different areas and things all the time. And I think this is the great part about having ADHD and autism. And also the frustrating part is that like my autism brain is like routine, structure, focus, hyper focus. And then my ADHD brain is like all the things, all the data, just do everything. And I think I've been able to kind of like funnel them both into like doing work that's super deep and super detailed, and has like this kind of, it feels like a superpower attention to detail and stuff, while also being able to see the big picture and how all the like little like pieces connect, which is really cool. So that's one strength. I think, you know, challenges that I faced, like if you, maybe I'll link it. I still have a hard time watching it myself because I messed up, but I'm trying to come to terms with that. But I do have a TEDx talk that I did on, the challenges of being neurodivergent in the business world and in the working world. Like,
That's perfect. Yeah.
yeah, like how even do you network? I know we're not like, no one's used to it right now, but like, you know, this was before everything with the pandemic, and like it's probably going to be similar still, of like, how do you you know, what even is like working the room or talking to all these people? Why can't I have one conversation with one person in a corner and like pet the cat, you know? And I think that like a lot of my challenges and a lot of the things that I've been trying to advocate for more have been like normalizing that, you know, I got to turn off my Zoom screen sometimes and be like, I'm an overload right now, I can't. Or being like, I think especially with, I just did a book chapter actually for this cool book that's coming out about like reintegrating back into society after COVID. Because I think that a lot of us, especially neurodivergent folks, are going to have a lot of difficulties getting back into stuff, especially socially. Like, I think, you know, I was like out doing a social event for one day and I was like out for the next 2 days because I was just like so exhausted by
socially hungover. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, socially hungover. I'm gonna use that now. But you know, it's things like that, where you have to be like, you know, I'm sorry I can't go. I'm gonna limit myself to like one social event per week. And you may have to deal with that, you know. People have been really understanding of that, and that's been cool. Yeah, and I think, you know, the other challenge, the last challenge that I would say, is that I think when things get really difficult, I tend to blame my autism for it. And that's a scary place to be, because my autism, my ADHD, those are part of who I am. And I think that I've, especially over the past year, it's easy to sort of fall into that trap of just being like, oh, I can't do this because I have these things. And I've realized that like, I can use those, I can use the knowledge of my conditions as ways to, you know, turn my challenges into strengths, or to, you know, create better conditions for myself, but I shouldn't use them as a way to like say that I can't.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. That's a very lovely way to put it.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's constantly reminding, because I think like a little while, like I've faced this constantly where like, you know, sometimes you can tell sometimes when I disclose that I'm autistic, people have a slightly different tone or think about me a little differently, or treat me a little differently. And I'm like, wonder what that difference was. And I've started to grow and learn how to be like, hey, I'm not, you know, you were just treating me one way a second ago. Like, I don't know what's the difference. And I think I've been, like turning that any anger about like people treating me differently, as less of a like, this is so hard because of my autism, or this is so hard because like society is against me and doesn't understand me, into more of an educational moment for that person. And yeah, that's been a journey, but it's been one that's helped a lot. So yes.
That's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you so much for. I'm taking notes because I don't want to forget for later. Um, okay. Taking notes. Okay. You are incredible. Everybody, please go check out Social Cipher. And if you have the power of money behind you, please consider helping them out and on all that good stuff like that. And if you are an educator or a mental health professional, please also consider checking them out. And just in general, be checking them out and be in Vanessa's corner cheering her on, please. This is absolutely a wonderful project, and I'm so grateful that we got to get together and in any shape or form that I've been able to help. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Do you have any final words? That's such a scary thing to say. I just didn't know how else to put it, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it funny. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have loved this and appreciated this. You're such a good host, and I just like appreciate your enthusiasm and passion and the work you're doing as well. And thank you all. I'm excited to read everyone's stuff in Twitch too. Thank you. I've been like glancing at it, but yeah, thank you all for watching too. And yeah, I think the last thing I've got to say is just like, you know, as you probably say a lot, like take care of yourselves and realize that y'all, everyone is on a path and you're progressing and you're doing well and things are going to be okay. Yeah.
Oh, all right. We're gonna be right back after this breakaroo. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Bye.
Thanks so much, everybody.